when you hit that moment of frustration, you just question everything. Should I keep this person? Are they the right person? Do I need to rehire? What do I got to do? There's a lot of swirl. Getting in the field and watching what is actually happening solves so much pain and time. You all of a sudden, all the things you thought were really complex become really simple.
Hey, welcome to another episode of Aleph Ventures TV. I am joined today once again by the great and powerful Micah Stelter, CEO of Paris Painting, sales leader in Aleph Ventures, Aleph Holdings. The list goes on and on. But there's only one Micah Stelter. Welcome back, sir.
Oh man, Hoken, we haven't done this for a while. This is fun.
We haven't, but we got a good one. And just to get right to it for those of you tuning in, so we're recording this. It is April 30th. We are a month into Q2. We at Aleph Ventures have our flagship business is Paris Painting, based in Minneapolis. And we also have several partners that are in the Midwest. Q2 is everything for most residential painting companies, certainly companies that are in the Midwest. And I've been having tons of conversations with business owners who have hired a lot of salespeople. And so I know we have also hired in our companies and at home a lot of salespeople. And these next, we've been in critical weeks, and the next, 6, 7, 8 weeks ahead of us are super critical for winning the year. And so I wanted to bring you in and talk about that. Somebody who's listening to this, who maybe they have, just hired a couple salespeople, they're in the thick of that. Let's talk about how to do that well, mistakes to avoid, what your calendar looks like. We'll get into all of it, but maybe just for context, since the start of the year, how many salespeople have you hired?
Yeah, I started hiring in around November. So November, I was starting to have a lot of sit downs, and we got we had some critical mass after Christmas, kind of in the month of January, and we were able to hire 5 new sales reps. So that team now is 13 on the Paris Painting side, and then we have another 10. Another 7 on the Paris Home Exterior side. So the team is 20 now.
Okay, 20 salespeople. And then I want to maybe get into, when you think about the first, let's call it, the first however long. I think it's talked about in different ways: 30 days, 60 days, 90 days, 120. Right? There's all this. How do you think about, okay, what is the critical window? And what are kind of the major milestones that I should be thinking about? I think just like giving that context before we jump into like some of the coaching stuff, which I think gets lost. But how do you think about that onboarding path?
Well, back in my day, I used to get somebody going in 2 weeks, selling their first job on the spot. That's certainly more challenging now because it's just, I think probably the output of what that was I was selling, they were selling, we could do a lot more faster. But the first 2 weeks is really that like training grind. So I would expect the first 2 weeks to be a lot of observation and data capture, learning the system, the ERP, the bidding software. They're understanding paint. They're understanding paint failures. They're understanding the sales model. It's just a huge fire hose injection of information. And they're just watching a lot. So they're not in that like critical environment where they have to know something. They're just observing and friendly and watching our existing team and their sales manager, training them, coaching them, and then watching a lot of the team and observing. In the second week, they typically move to, all right, I'm trying to apply some of that knowledge, and I am still under a watchful eye, but I might be trying some things by myself. And they're really trying to get where they estimate within 5% of a skilled estimator by the end of 2 weeks. I've definitely heard stories across our partner groups and across people I talk with where they spend the better half of a year like reviewing their bids. We are trying to get them to where they can bid fairly accurately within 5% of a skilled salesperson within 2 weeks. There's going to be outliers to that, but generally getting the core homes that you're going to see, kind of the bell curve of homes you're going to see, stucco, wood siding, stucco and trim, those type of like similar sizes by the end of 2 weeks. After that 2-week period, they start to move into taking on a few estimates. So they might take between 5 and 10 estimates, but we're trying to spread them out really far. So they're still observing a lot of the team or whoever is doing the estimates already at the company, I guess is one way to say it. That for our purposes could be an owner operator that's still in sales that's making that jump to their first salesperson, or there's other salespeople at the company and they're watching them quite a bit. So they do a little bit of their own and a little bit of observing. That's usually the week 3 and 4. And based on how that goes with our kind of watching them do more of the lead and us observe more, we start to like rate them on a rating scale in that coaching and monitor their estimating to know, are they ready to take on more estimates? Kind of it can be that week 3, but a lot of times it's week 4 that they're more kind of like getting some critical mass. So that's the first 30 days. And then kind of the next 14 days is, are we going to hold them back on estimates and keep focusing on some specific skills? Or are we going to allow them to take a full bid calendar and run? And that you see that as you coach and train and you're with your people. We don't do a lot of delegation, but there is a level of go out and figure some things out on your own. And then we take these like dipstick moments of coaching through the week to see how they're coming off to homeowners, how their results are, how their bids look. We're doing kind of the dipstick thing. And then typically, if a lot of our people we hire and have ready to go by February, we want them kind of in that 30-day round kind of thing I was telling you, that first 2 weeks of March is kind of the last big training time. And then the last part of March and then April, they're starting to stabilize. So that by May, mid-April to May, they're crushing it. They're ready to go. They know a lot of the core wiggles are out. They know a lot of the core processes and they're executing above 40% success ratio. I'll get a breath and let you kind of probe in on that. Where would you like to go next on that?
So I think that's great. And I think that, right. So that's kind of the 30, 45 day kind of window. A lot of office time, kind of homework time. We're in a conference room talking about stuff. We're getting out in the field and observing stuff too, but it's a lot of classroom stuff. I think people are going to have, honestly, different systems, different ways of doing that. But okay, let's say you get through that and somebody's like pretty efficient, like they're doing a decent job. Is your job over in the first year? Do you think it's if they're doing okay, like you're done?
So the quick answer is no. Every week you're evaluating both your legacy salespeople and your new salespeople, but there's a hyper focus on new salespeople. In our organization, we have a sales management layer, and there's a sales manager that's focused on new person training and onboarding for their whole first year. And then we have sales managers that are more focused on legacy sales reps that have been around for a while. So we have some emphasis there. What you're looking for every week is success ratio. What is it? How many bids did they do and how many jobs did they sell? So if you sold 5 jobs on 10 bids, 50%, that's good. That's a good measure of something's going well here. What we often look for though is who is stably getting to 40% on their total success ratio on the year. When you evaluate that, they usually start low because they're building funnel for new people. And then they should be on a path where they move up to the 30s and then they get to the 40s and they're above 40. And then for the rest of the year, they're climbing over 45%. Whereas legacy guys might have come into the year at 45%, maybe 50, and hold that all year long. But if they dip, I'm looking for that. New people, I want them to be on the right trajectory. But if they're not quite getting there after 3 weeks of their own bids and they're sitting at, like, say, 15 to 25% success ratio, we are every week looking at the sales team, and we're deciding who needs a one-on-one and field coaching. And there's a specific plan to address the root issues in the data in a one-on-one meeting, and a specific plan to do 1 to 3 coaching events in the field with the intention of solving the success ratio issue. So for the new people, a conversation that I've had with the sales manager, or if I'm the sales manager, I've had, as I'm looking at my team, is who's doing well and seems stable based on the data. I'm gonna not prioritize maybe those 1 to 2 reps. I'm gonna prioritize the ones that really need it, and I'm gonna go hard after that specific KPI and change it over the next 2 weeks. What can happen? So I would just say that wasn't always the case. If we had 2 salespeople, I'd probably go out with both and make sure, because it's more of a capacity thing of why you prioritized. But that every week is really who needs the support up and over just a meeting, like a one-on-one meeting, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and I think this is something that I am observing in what I, kind of the core of what I wanted to talk to you about. So, because I think there's a lot of comparables. So you are the CEO of a very large painting business. We have an exterior side that you're over as well. So like there's a lot going on, and you are the sales leader, the primary sales leader within that organization, which I don't think is too dissimilar from kind of single owner operators, right?
Mm-hmm.
Who are kind of that, therefore they're the CEO of those businesses. I don't know if a business is 3 million, 4 million, 5 million, in revenue, something like that. They have a few salespeople. Most entrepreneurs are more sales inclined, right? So they are kind of managing the sales team, and then they also got to worry about cash flow, and they got to worry about, production and overseeing some of that stuff too. But like, how much of your calendar this week, how many hours this week will you spend out in the field, shoulder to shoulder, coaching your people as a CEO of a, $20 million organization?
I would preface to say there's a season to this, but the last few weeks it's been like 16 hours plus of investment of my week doing that.
And whenever we say 16 hours, like what do those 16 hours consist of? Like what are you doing in those hours?
It would be prep calls with the reps that I'm focused on, actual events where I'm attending bids with them and observing, debrief calls with them, and then writing feedbacks on how they did relative to our model, so that there's feedback that's more objective versus just subjective of, I feel like you could do better. It's actually broken down in our sales model, and you have ratings that you can improve specific areas that are lower. And then it has kind of the core work-ons and core continues, so that they can grab all those things that need the work and just focus there to be better. Keep doing the things that are going great, and we want to honor them for the things they're learning and exhibiting, but also here's the clear things that you could fix to be able to easily change your success ratio. And so delivering those has been a part of that all the way along, but feedback can look more simple. Like, I'll send you an email with a couple bullet points that you should remember. And generally that went well. And it was just good relationship time. We had some lunch and we got in the field. And then sometimes it can be, we're going to run a structured coaching event where I want to certify you in this skill set, and we're going to be more intense about it in the feedback that I give. And so a few different ways to do that, but I would just say it's always sometime around late March. We turn on massive amounts. We'll probably assign up to 15 to 20 events to different leaders on our team or different people on our team to go out and be with our salespeople. And we do that all the way through the end of April into like mid-May. And by that big push, we usually see the skill developed, it's holding, and people are running. And the amount of intensity of that being on our calendars can go down. So I would say it's a good self-reflection to go, did I put in that level of investment mid-March through mid-May? That's really where the investment needs to be made. And if it's done well, or just even if it's done, honestly, it makes a great payoff to the rest of the year, because your performance really they get going with skill, and they continue in that skill for most of the year.
And this is where I don't want folks to kind of get distracted by words like certification or, even events, right? Boil this down. Simply put, you as the CEO have been like, you are yourself driving to 4 to 6 sales appointments per week with different sales reps. So I think just the self-reflection is like, okay, if you have 1, 2, 3, 4 salespeople on your team, it's like, how many bids per week as a sales leader, if you are a sales leader, or if you're the owner of your company and the de facto sales leader, it's like, how many appointments per week of your sales team are you shadowing? And then like what that looks like, and the feedback and the process, like, that's not to say that's not important, but I don't want folks to overthink that. It's just like, that is the biggest gap, I would say, and observe from my conversations. I think I talk to people who, they're good leaders, they care a lot about their people, they have good people, and they're trying to problem solve sales issues from their desk, and they are not getting their boots on the ground in front of the customer with their salespeople.
Yeah, that brings up a really good point, Hoken. So I think a lot of people would identify with this. You're looking at whatever data set you have, and you're like, man, I don't like what I'm seeing. So I have a meeting, my maybe scheduled meeting. Hopefully there's a one-on-one at least, right? Hopefully. But you have that meeting, and you're like, you have a good conversation, and then nothing really changes, or it's not that great. And you're just like, I hired the wrong person. Shoot, right? And you just have this desk anger of, I keep telling them what to do. We talk about it. I feel good after our meeting, and then nothing really changes. And when you hit that moment of frustration, and I've talked to many of our partners that have felt this too, when you hit that moment of frustration, you just question everything. Should I keep this person? Are they the right person? Do I need to rehire? What do I got to do? There's a lot of swirl. To your point, getting in the field and watching what is actually happening solves so much pain and time, because you all of a sudden, all the things you thought were really complex become really simple, and you're like, oh, they're not connecting with the homeowner at this point, or they said this and that. It's like they left too much on the table. They didn't dive deeper to understand this client, and that's not part of our brand. That's not who we are. And so you just see everything play out in person, and it's so clear to you. If you've been in this business and been successful at all, it's so clear to you where the gaps are, and you can address them specifically, and sometimes even lean in and show what you mean, right? Let me handle it. So you jump in and you say, you do a better needs analysis, or you create better expectations, because you know what goes wrong in production, and that new salesperson might not. And so when you go in the field, it's easy, it's simple, and all you have to do is just share with that person what you're seeing and give the correction. But anytime you can demonstrate it and they watch it work, they become way more bought in as well. Without any complexity of a sales model, without any, like, most of the people that are listening to this, they've been successful in some form or fashion selling their business. That's why they're at the point they're at. It's that transference, right? So if you go out and watch, what would I have done? Well, they didn't do that. Some things are acceptable because they're not the owner, potentially. But I would say 9 times out of 10, it's just simple things that you would have done and they didn't do. And you just have to have that conversation and teach them that thing. And then if they're committed to the growth, they really appreciate that time you invested in them, because you care about them and you want them to be successful. And they become better just because you watch. But now you know what the real root issues are versus the data told you there was something going on, but you didn't know why. You have the salesperson's idea of why, or they don't have an idea, and you might have an idea, but get rid of the guesswork, get in the field and watch it happen.
Yeah, I think there's this so much of what we learn, and I think as competent people, business owners struggle to realize this, but it's like so much of what we know, we have caught it more than somebody has necessarily taught it to us, right? Like, and I think that's especially true for entrepreneurs. You got to be good at that. Like, there's some kind of bookish people that it's just like, we have a partner, Royce Palmer, shout out Royce. I feel like that's a guy where it's like, that dude does not waste a word that he takes in through a book or a conference or something like that. It's like, if he learns something that's good, he takes it in, he puts it to action, he makes good on it. But then I think there's just a lot of people where it's just like trial and error, and you're just good at figuring stuff out. And I think, just recognizing that showing your people stuff and being able to connect with them on real world examples out in the field is, there's just nothing better than that.
Yeah. Yep. And it helps you make transition decisions faster too. So when you're out there and you do the coaching and you watch them watch you, they take it away and then they completely ignore it and they don't show up and they don't prepare and they look disheveled and they don't have stuff in their car, and then you tell them and then they don't do it. You're just like, it's so much more reassuring to say that's not a good fit versus looking at a data dashboard and wondering, why can't they just figure it out? Well, most people don't. Like, most people need coaching and development. Most people want that. That's a big reason why people come to our company, is they can see the clear vision of development they're going to get. And we paint that picture and we fulfill that on that, right? And I think painting companies that grow and become stable do that well. And they care about their people and they know their people, and the real issues going on, and you sweat with them out in the field and put yourself in the awkward client situation just like they are. How would you handle it? How did they handle it? There's been some fun moments where I was out with one of our salespeople a few years back, and he was all prepped and ready to come just crush it. And he walks out, and the customer comes out and just says, "Hey, how you doing?" And he goes, "Hey, how are you?" And then, "Is it okay if I he kind of came on a little assertively with what we were going to do today, and kind of took too much control. And she says, "Hey, just so you know, I'm not here to be mansplained to." and just was like, boop, wall, offense. And he was like, "Oh," because this is such a sweetie. This person would never have meant that. Like that, he would have been super caring, but he just came off too prepared or too assertive or something like that. And she just threw a big wall up. And it was fun to be in that moment, because I was like, "Hey, I'm going to go ahead and tap you out for a minute. Hey." And I had to reestablish. And then it got to a point where she was like, "I'm so sorry, you guys." Like, she just felt bad, and we reset it. But just being in those environments together, you get to like sweat it out and recover. And even that, I think we sold that job and it went great. Right. And you just don't get those kind of moments unless you can get in the field.
This is another thing I want to bring up, and this is, I won't mention any names, but you are going to be familiar with this example. Somebody that we love and have been talking to a lot recently here. If he listens to this, he might pick up on this, but had a salesperson who, like business development, like how much business development's going on, and generating their own leads. How are they generating their own leads? Is there activity to kind of do that? And it's funny because I just this morning had another call with somebody else who, that's kind of a pain point a little bit, is a sales team that just responds to leads coming in, but they're not really kind of self-starters when it comes to going and finding opportunities. And you gave this gentleman some feedback, and what did he do? Went out, spent a day in the field with this individual and observed, and then kind of modeled, made a call to a property manager or something like that. And wouldn't you know, they like got an opportunity out of it. So it was just this awesome, got out there, not only modeled it, but then there was success. So then it's like super inspiring for the person. And then sometimes too, you just observe like, oh, they've just never seen this done before. And maybe it seems crazy, like maybe they should have, or maybe their imagination should be better. But it's just like, and then, all right, now I know. Now I know what this looks like. As simple as, here's a number, call the number, here's what you say. But it's just crazy how dependent the human is on like something being shown or modeled for them.
Yeah, I'm not any different. I was coached a ton, and one of the things about coaching, just from an environment, just to set the tone, I think it's important that when you think about your boss and then you think about you as a report, and there's all sorts. I mean, even if you own the thing, there's a boss of some sort. It's probably the customer, right? There still is somebody we serve, and I think it's really important to think about coaching like physical training, um, like getting fit. Like I think the best athletes, the most elite people, never stop hiring people to tell them to be better,
They have the most
and
coaches.
they have the most, and they invest in it because they're not willing to quit. But it's uncomfortable, and it's hard for somebody to say, "Hey, push up one more rep," or "Hey, hold to this calorie limit and log your food," or "Hey." But why are people actually doing that? It's because we have goals and things we're trying to achieve, and we have a great outcome at the end of that, and we're not going to naturally do that. Life would be so easy. It just isn't. We get uncomfortable, and we get pushed, and we get challenged, and the hard places is how we grow. And I think the coaching environment between coach and learner, if the learner understands it's them pushing the coach to the ultimate max, how do you squeeze every amount of ROI out of that individual? That is so fun. And it's so much different than if you live in insecurity and you're like, oh, my boss is watching me. It's so much different to set an environment where it's like, I'm here you need to make me sweat. I want you to squeeze all the value out of me as a coach. If you're not doing that, what, like, I shouldn't do this then. Like, this doesn't make sense. I'm out here to just pour into you and see you be successful because you have goals that I want to help you achieve. And if you achieve those, that's going to help me. But I think that's a really great like culture to set when you do coaching like this is about you. It's not about me evaluating you, deciding, do you have worth? It's about you having an opportunity to pull everything that I know and give it to you.
So this is great because, and I think this is something where you were bringing this up. So I want to kind of tee this up for you, just some of our pre-conversation. But so there's coaching as a priority process, something that you put in your calendar, but then it's a very human thing where there's relationships there, right? And then you just think about somebody listening to this, maybe their brother is a salesperson of theirs. Maybe it's like a longtime friend. Maybe it is somebody that they go to church, it's from their church community that now works in their business, or maybe they've had the business for 15 years and this has never been something that they've done. So you have all those different dynamics. And okay, now if I feel this conviction of like, hey, I want to go and coach and help people, what maybe like how can they get their own headspace right, or create atmosphere? Like talk a little bit about how to not make this weird, I guess.
Yeah, for sure. Well, there's a few places where it can get weird, right? The learner or your staff member is like, shoot, my boss is joining me. I'm going to be observed. And then the other place is, I don't think I'm a qualified coach. I don't know if I have any right being out there, and you have a little insecurity of that. So that can happen. The other thing can be, I don't have time for that. Why? That's not my job. I don't need to go out there, and that's why I hired this person. They should be out there figuring it out, right? So that would be called delegation. So a lot of different dynamics at play there. I would say from the learner aspect, setting that get the high ROI out of people who know what they're doing to be successful. This is about your development and your goals, not my outcome of profit in this business. And yes, those things can lead in the right direction, but isn't that why we all do business? So we all grow and hit our goals for financially, that we can be aligned on that. From a owner or somebody who is trying to enter into coaching and they feel a little insecure about it, there are like unbelievably advanced models and books you can read and ways you can be emotionally intelligent and situational leadership and how you can tweak here versus there to change the environment, to move them from uncommitted to committed, skill from low to above average. There's all sorts of little management matrices you can get into. You could really go as, this is like how a coach can keep developing in life, but it's like, just go watch, right? And we just got done talking about that. Get over the hump of, I don't know if I know what to do, and just go out there and watch and see if you find things. That's the easiest entry point. And to your point of the last example of, yeah, that's a person that was like, I'm not a skilled, I would like to be a skilled coach, but I'm not right now. It'd be easy not to enter into that work, but you can see with not a ton of coaching training, he found ways to take what he knows how to do and has done in the past and transfer it by showing. To your point, that catch of the learning matters a lot. And wouldn't it be great if all of the owners of all the companies that might be listening to this just had salespeople that sell close to them, like pretty close to how they did it? Like, it'd be awesome. Just do as I do, and they do pretty good, right? If they could just transfer that. It isn't usually. I don't usually hear owners saying, "Man, I've been out with them multiple times every week for months and months and months." I usually hear, "I hired them to do it, and they're terrible," or I don't know what's going on with them, because I think it's natural for us to want to sit in our office and strategize and plan and envision and get excited and do the things that matter most, or the things we have to do, like solve problems in the field or whatever. And we forget to get in the field in this way and just go transfer and build relationship and transfer the skill that you have up till now. And I think be freed up for that. And also be excited that there's so much more that can be learned to be exceptional at it. But that's not the requirement to build painting companies that have skilled salespeople. It's side by side field time. And I would just say this is also true for PMs, not just sales. Project managers and salespeople, both in the field time, you solve a lot of things with that. So those would be a couple of things I'd say. And every year, the more I've elevated in my roles, every year I'm like, oh, I have to coach again. And I like coaching. I do like it. But man, I have so many big things I want to do. Can't other people do that? And the reality is, we've got a pretty big team, and our sales managers are maxed out with their own sales goals and coaching the highest priorities on their team. And then there's a whole nother bucket of people that we can't get to with just those sales managers. And those are a lot of the people that I lean in with to help just pick up the slack and support my sales managers. I would also say it's really fun for me to go coach my sales managers, coach their salespeople. So you have kind of a 2-tiered coaching event happening at once, where you're transferring the skill of coaching as well, which is another fun layer later on down the road. And most entrepreneurs are not going to think that's fun. Most entrepreneurs are going to look for a GM or somebody that's going to integrate and do that work, and they'll be excited when they do. But it's one of the most transformational things you can do to transfer skill and get your business plan on track. There's not any amount of systems and data, and I think we built an amazing ERP, CRM, bidding tool. We built amazing tools. We have amazing playbooks, but that all kind of breaks down if we don't do the human thing of side-by-side coaching. And I think AI in the future, I think the system development of the future is going to help us do it faster. I always think AI, and one of my principles for when we develop and are developing AI in our world, is AI should help great humans be greater. And so you have this friction that helps you, that makes it hard to be really, really effective on a human level, connecting and transferring, because you might have all these reports to look at, all this email to sort through, whatever. I think a lot of the AI developments of the future are going to reduce a lot of that clutter and get to clarity and allow you to execute the human things that matter more effectively, which I think is going to help coaching a lot in the future too.
Love all of that. And I mean, so maybe a little nuance on this. I think whenever I thought about this topic with you, it was very much on kind of new hire, right? Like, this is just a time of year where people are hiring salespeople like crazy, or have hired. These are like the testing months of like, okay, is this person is this going to work out? Can it not? This makes or breaks business plans, etc. But maybe how about like coaching in the role of retention? So like, is coaching something that somebody eventually just completely graduates out of? Getting out in the field with people. And I'm kind of leading here because, but maybe just speak of that. How do you think about coaching and developing, 2 years down the road, 3 years down the road, when somebody's been there a while?
Yeah. I would just set out a principle that new salespeople in their first months should probably be coached once a week in some form or fashion. The data can tell you who doesn't need a focus for a certain week if you need to get by with that. But generally, once a week, in probably the first 6 months of some sort. And I would say in the first 30 days, 2 to 3 times a week as they're out on their own estimates. And that might be an intensive 2 weeks, right? Legacy people who know the skill, they've done the work. We usually move to a principle of once a month, trying to do something impactful with legacy so that once every 30 days, each of your people get an impactful connect. I have a sales rep that our coaching events aren't necessarily going bid for bid. We meet for lunch and we talk about mentality. We get connected on dream, like future. We spend time I might meet him in between bids out in the field and just talk about life and focus where we're going. He loves knowing where's the business going. And so I get that field time that way. We're not going bid side by side per se. But then I have other sales reps that are in their second or third year that maybe just got stuck in a mental funk and their SR started dropping and they'd been really stable, but then something broke. Those are the moments to come out. And that's where that every 30 day, you can get out and just like recorrect that. Hey, remember, you know what you're doing. Remember, you're really good at this. Remember how you've been, what happened? And then they share this personal thing happened in life and it's really got in my head. Or even I had a job go really south and now I don't maybe believe in our quality. All sorts of things could be a reason for drop in success ratio, but you can go catch those if you have a rhythm of trying to get to every one of your people in, once every 30 days. So just as a rhythm, I think a really good coaching event can keep people like running with the right fix for 4 weeks. And then I think some things can start to slip and the data will tell you. So if you can watch success ratio, I'll just say if you don't have a way to track how many bids they go to, how many jobs they sell, and what the success ratio is, that's really, you want to get there because it can tell you a lot. That's typically what triggers for me somebody needs focus.
Yeah. I think it's just it's a good culture to have. I think it's sticky too. It's kind of context, I think, is such an important factor for relationship development, right? Like people talk about like guys that go to war, or if you go through something hard, the context of that challenge kind of creates this relational bond that you just can't access if you hadn't gone through that, that challenge. I think there's just something to that of like, if you are getting out in the field, and I think not just sales, any role, if a manager or leader kind of meets their people kind of on the battlefield that they are actually in every day, it just creates I think relationship opportunity for development, all kinds of good opportunity that it's just like there's really no substitute for it, for those just hours spent out there with them.
Yep, I agree. And I mean, some of the best, most impactful, I get super energized from it because I think yesterday I had a two bid event, one with a new person. We were focusing on lifting average job size sold up, and then one with a legacy salesperson in their second year, focused on the same thing actually. And both were like so fun. They were doing 80% of the work from their good training and their skill, and I was adding value on that 20% that they were missing. They were watching me lean in there. They were appreciative. One of my reps, it was great. He was struggling to he was struggling to budget anchor and then get somebody aligned if they're unaligned to the price. And then he wasn't winning the bigger jobs because he was just like, hey, sorry, nothing I can do. It's going to be the price it's going to be. And so people were getting these huge bids, and they were like, my budget's not that. My budget's 12,000, not 18,000, right? And he's like, well, it's 18,000. And it's a common thing, right? And so I was teaching him how to say, oh, 12,000. Okay, well, I can do this scope for 12,000, but I can't do all the things you just told me. So how about I option those out and we'll do the base bid at 12? Would that be better? And then they're like, oh, yes, let's do it that way. And now he's going to sell that bigger job because they bought the 12K job. And then what happens later is they pick up a bunch of the options because they already stopped shopping. And they're like, well, while you're out here, why don't you do those things too? And so it was like a really fun fix to work on with him to solve that data issue that I was seeing. But he was really appreciative. And when he got kind of the feedback that I gave him, both verbally and then written, he had just said, hey, this is probably the most thorough process I've ever been a part of. And he was super appreciative and was like, this is a big eye opener for me. And I love that because this is somebody who's like in his like mid 40s who has had lots of different careers on his own and with other companies. And to be somebody that can contribute to some of the best development he's ever gotten in any career in a painting company of all places, right? A trades company is super fun. So I would just encourage everybody, like the amount of impact you can make on somebody's life because you care and you spend time with them and you work on these things. And it was so fun. So I had so much energy. I had to listen to EDM music the whole drive home back to the office because it was so fun. And it was like, it ended up being an 18K job with a $33,000 roof. I think we're going to sell $50,000 worth of work this week from that bid, which is also really fun because you could help get some sales in the door that way too.
That's awesome, man. Good. Well, let's leave it there for now. I did an episode with Dave Richley. He's the president of Aleph Ventures, where we dove a little bit deeper into like a coaching event, like how to go about a coaching event. So I would say main takeaway, I would hope if you're listening to this, you have salespeople, don't overthink this. Just simply like put in your calendar that you're going to go shadow and you're just going to go get out in the field, and like good things can happen from that. If maybe you're doing that or you're already kind of in that rhythm and want a little bit more, I will put in the show notes link to that episode with Dave of like getting into like the process of, how to make an event like that where you go out, how to make that effective and have a bit of a process for that. So, Micah, you're the man, dude. I know that you're grinding this time of year, and but it's such good work, and appreciate you spend some time to come and share your wisdom.
Love it. Thanks, Hoken.